All right, today we're going to talk about mental illness or psychic experience. And I'm going to give you guys some examples. This is why so many people end up finding me because they feel like they might be going crazy and because they are having symptoms that are also related to mental illness or their mental health. But a huge percentage of them are actually having a spiritual or psychic experience. So let's dive in and talk about a few different ways that you can wrap your head around this. And then if you guys have questions, make sure you leave comments. And if you need help or a mentor, then you need to like comment on mentor or check out my AWAKEN program or my mentorship programs. So one of the symptoms that people have are also related to bipolar disorder. And I'm going to explain how that may be a spiritual experience. I do want to put a disclaimer in here. I'm not a medical practitioner, but I've been teaching psychic and mediumship development, and I've been in the spiritual industry for 13 years. And this comes up a lot. I helped so many people that were diagnosed with bipolar disorder investigate their symptoms and find out what was really happening, and then help them manage these quote unquote symptoms. So for example, when you have bipolar disorder, a lot of times that means sometimes you're like really, really on the up, and sometimes you're really, really on the down. So if it's a spiritual experience that you're having, if those symptoms are related to a spiritual experience, then I'm going to explain what that is. I like to call it the angel and the devil sitting on your shoulder. And if you are having a spiritual experience, it's because you're coming online with the spirit world. And so you're starting to have symptoms of coming online with the spiritual world. But also, if you're highly sensitive, right, then you may be influenced by energies that you can't see. And I like to, again, it's just an example, the angel and the devil, right? So when you're on your highs, you're more being influenced by like an angelic realm, right? You're positive, you are, grounded, you're at peace. But then sometimes all of a sudden you can have like a lower level energy whispering to you, and maybe you don't hear it, right? This is the thing, is a lot of you guys that are having these symptoms, you're not developed yet. So you don't understand it, you don't recognize it, and you don't know how to manage it, and you don't know how to control it. So when you're having these ups and downs, you're starting to think to yourself, geez, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe I'm bipolar. And you go to the doctor, and what is the doctor going to say to you? The doctor's not going to explain any of this, any energetics, any science, right? To you. They're not going to explain that you're an energetic being and that you are connecting to the other side, maybe when you don't even know you're doing it, right? So maybe this lower level energy is telling you, stay in bed. Nothing's worth living. You're depressed. And so you do stay in bed and you do take actions based on this influence. And I'm calling it an influence because you're being influenced by something that you can't even see. And you think it's you. So you take action based on how you are feeling, right? So if you're feeling up, then you're going to be getting up. You're going to be taking care of yourself, right? You're going to have lights, open the curtains, bring brightness into your life. But if you're being influenced by a lower level energy, you're going to take action based on that, right? So this is just one example of like a bipolar diagnosis that might actually be a spiritual symptoms that you're having. And the doctors are not going to tell you this. They're going to give you medication to cover it up. And it's just going to toxify your system. And right, once you have a mentor, such as myself, we can investigate these symptoms and see if you're able to learn how to manage them through my program, through my mentorship, so that you can start living your freaking life again, right? One of my testimonies that I have on my website somewhere says I was diagnosed bipolar for 15 years, and then I discovered I was a medium, right? She was picking up on energies and information from the spiritual realm, something you can't see, right? We only see 0.00035%, something like that, maybe even more zeros of the spectrum of light. So what you can't see may be influencing you, right? So let's take it back a notch and let's talk about empaths, right? So all of you guys that are watching this, if you're an empath, there's a huge amount of empaths, right? You go into Walmart and you're feeling happy, right? Go into Walmart and you're feeling happy. You stand maybe next to the cash register and maybe she just broke up with her boyfriend and she is so freaking depressed. You don't know she broke up with your boyfriend. You don't know anything about her, but you're picking up on her energy without being told. I know all of you guys are out there raising your hand to this right now. Are you picking up on energies of other people without being told? And if the answer is yes, this is a perfect example. This is like the beginning stage, being an empath, leaving the Walmart store feeling so sad and depressed because you took on that lady, the cash register's emotions as your own. And so you go home and you don't know why, you just want to cry and curl up in the corner. This is a perfect example, but it goes deeper, like back to that whole bipolar situation, right? It goes deeper. You guys need to learn how to manage your energy, and you need to realize that there's a lot more out there than all these diagnoses. So now let's talk about schizophrenia. That is a big one. Believe it or not, my great grandma was diagnosed schizophrenic. And my mom told me when I was a kid that my great grandma would say that she could talk to aliens. And that's just sounded so outlandish back then, right? So I don't know if she was on medication or anything, but she was labeled schizophrenic. And I remember growing up worrying if I was going to suddenly become schizophrenic and have to go into like an insane asylum or something, right? I mean, it's a natural thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, how many generations does it jump? You know, just thinking that. But then as I gone through my spiritual awakening, hello, lots of people talk to aliens. And my great grandma was probably one of the first ones that admitted it, right? So schizophrenia, I don't have the medical definition for you, other than I know that it means you're taking on different personalities. But I do know what it means when it comes to the spiritual awakening and psychic and mediumship abilities. So many people that are diagnosed schizophrenic are actually psychic mediums, and they're actually not only being influenced by other spirits, right? They're taking it on as their own, and they're actually, if you're a medium, right? What could happen and what does happen with some people that are labeled schizophrenic is they have this mediumship light bulb on, right? The spirit world can tell if you have an ability to communicate with them. And just like there's good humans and there's really bad humans, it's the same thing in the spirit world. So if there's like maybe some lower level energies, or maybe they're not even lower level, maybe they're just what we would call like roamers, or people that haven't crossed over yet, and they sense your light and they know that they can manipulate you and they may get inside of you. That's happened to me before. If you guys haven't read my book, Your Freaking Amazing Gifts, I tell my whole story in there on how a dead person got inside my body, and it was pretty wild, and my voice changed, and I could feel this lady's personality in my body. Her name was Marge, and her name still is Marge, and she's not allowed to get in my body. But, and I'm making light of it because I know my boundaries. I know how to manage it. I know how to handle it. And I knew what was happening to me when it happened because I was doing an actual mediumship reading when the lady decided to jump inside of me. But some of these people that are labeled schizophrenic, if they don't know what's happening and they're getting jumped, right? By different spirits, by different personalities, and they take on that personality, and maybe even their voice changes. Something just popped in my head. I feel like spirit wants me to say this. Did you know that some people that have personality disorder, and this is going to blow your mind, you guys, so pay attention to what I'm about to say. Some people that have different personality disorders, if they're having one personality, might be nearsighted. And if they jump over to this other personality, and I'm not kidding you, could be diabetic. Okay. They take on an actual physical ailment based on the personality that they're taking. And this is personality disorder is probably a different label than schizophrenia, but what I'm telling you is if you are labeled schizophrenic and you are getting jumped by spirit, you may take on that whole personality. And it could, some people, I bless their hearts, you know, I'm sending you all love if this is a scenario for you, but some people have tagged me and post or reach out to me where they have like 100 personalities coming through the schizophrenic. And if it gets to that case, then what's happening here is the medium, right? The person, the physical person that's having the schizophrenic symptoms, they're going to, like, their nervous system is going to be completely freaking shocked, right? And that they're probably think they're freaking nuts. So, and they're probably on so many medications that it just wears them down, and they just end up just not living the life that they can, that they have the free will to, that they have the right to. So these are just 3 examples that I wanted to share on this podcast or this video, whichever one you're listening or watching to share. Are you having a mental illness symptoms, or are you having a psychic or spiritual symptom? Psychic abilities and psychic experiences are very unique to each person. Very unique. And it's an investigative process. Like I said, I've been teaching for 13 years. One person that maybe is labeled bipolar and another person that's labeled bipolar, if they're having a spiritual experience, maybe having a completely different experience. So there's no like book to be like, if you have a bipolar disorder, do this, this, and this. It's more like, let's talk through it. Let's see when it's happening to you. When is it happening to you? You know, was it under stressful situations? Like, is it at night? You know, when? Like, let's dive in and investigate together. And then we're going to create a plan, and we're going to teach you how to manage your energy, how to be the boss of your physical being, how to be the boss over the spirit will, because you have free will. These experiences are simply like a clue that you have abilities that you don't know about. Right? You have abilities that you don't know about, and you're being called to step up and step away from the old paradigm of covering ourselves up with pills. Again, I said I'm not a medical practitioner. Some people do have mental illness. Some people do need medication. It would be great if people like me and also the clinical side could work together. And I'm sure that probably exists somewhere. I just haven't seen it in front of me. To work together to help people live a better life that are having these types of random experiences or mood swings or personality disorders, to discover what is really going on here, right? Maybe your body's so toxic, maybe things are out of balance, but maybe it's the spirit world wanting to work with you and wanting to let you know that you have these abilities, but you just don't understand it. So you're being manipulated by spirits that don't necessarily have your interests at hand. All right. So I'm sending you guys so much love. Please share the crap out of this podcast, out of this video, with people that need to be educated on this topic. I'm very, very passionate about it. Again, my name is Brandaleen Johnson. If you just came across this, come find me in the online space on Instagram. I am Brandaleen. Or check out my Awaken program at brandaleen.com/awaken. We'll put that in the show notes here so you can find out that you're not crazy and start living your life again.